Avoidants often struggle with physical intimacy in a relationship, especially if you're dealing with a dismissive avoidant or a fearful avoidant that leans heavily dismissive. When you're in a relationship, especially a long-term relationship with an avoidant, the physical intimacy generally goes one of two ways. The first way is that the avoidant is able to separate emotions from the physical act. And in these cases, they can regularly be involved in physical intimacy with you. But they're detached emotionally, which means it is often very robotic, like they're just doing the physical deed. There's not the passion and the romance and the lovemaking behind it. Or it can go down the other route, which is the most common route, where they withdraw from physical intimacy altogether. And this is because physical intimacy boosts emotional intimacy. It goes hand in hand. It's a bonding activity with your partner. Oxytocin is released during physical intimacy. Oxytocin is the bonding hormone. Avoidants really tend to get triggered by emotional intimacy. And this goes back to their childhood. Keep in mind, this is a person that received consistent childhood emotional neglect. They were not given that love and nurturing in the way that they needed. Often growing up in households where you just don't talk about feelings, and their feelings were routinely dismissed and rejected. The problem is they personalize this emotional neglect, growing up to feel unlovable, defective, like there's something wrong with them. And that's why they put up these walls. And that's why they seek emotional distance between themselves and their partner. Their subconscious fear is, if I lower my walls and I really let this person in, my partner is going to figure out that I'm not good enough, that I'm a disappointment, that I'm defective and I'm not lovable, and I'm going to get rejected. So emotional intimacy is subconsciously associated with rejection and abandonment. Emotional distance feels safer because they get to keep their walls up and they don't risk being exposed as being not good enough. It's not that they're actually not good enough, it's what they perceive themselves to be. So physical intimacy boosts that emotional intimacy, and emotional intimacy equals rejection and abandonment in the mind of the avoidant. So therefore, physical intimacy becomes unsafe. Now what happens is they find reasons to not engage in it. They start to withdraw from it. And they might not be in the mood, too tired, or the anxiety from that intimacy can actually manifest itself into physical symptoms, performance issues, where they're not able to perform in bed due to that anxiety. It can show up as ED in males, for example. And it's not that there's actually a physical problem with them, it's the anxiety of the physical intimacy and the emotional intimacy that comes with it is so overwhelming to them. And avoidants avoid. So rather than dealing with the issue, rather than actually trying to work on the physical intimacy, they just withdraw and run from it altogether to help create emotional distance from themselves and their partner. Now, they're often unaware of why they feel the need to shut down with physical intimacy in a relationship. And that's because of a lack of self-reflection. Avoidants avoid, and that includes self-reflection, because when you self-reflect, you have to process emotions, not suppress them. You have to take accountability and look and see how you can do better. But that's painful because accountability in their mind confirms their own perceived inner defectiveness. So they don't go there. And because of that, they often are completely unaware of what they feel, why they feel, and where it's coming from. But if you're on the receiving end of this lack of intimacy, it can feel like the ultimate rejection, like you're not attractive, like you're not desired, like you're not wanted by your person. And it's hard not to take it personally when they never want to be intimate with you. You start to question your looks, your appearance, your qualities, like, why am I so undesirable? When in reality, it actually has nothing to do with you not being good enough, and everything to do with them and their insecurities. It is everything to do with them and their lack of self-esteem. But it is not because of you or anything you did wrong, as long as you're showing up as a consistent, loving partner. Then it really isn't on you, and it really isn't truly a rejection of you. What they're doing at the subconscious level is rejecting themselves as not being good enough for you, which is why they keep themselves at an emotional distance. But while it's not everything, physical intimacy is a crucial part of a healthy relationship. It boosts emotional intimacy. It strengthens the bond. There's been many studies behind this. And couples that do regularly have physical intimacy tend to report much higher levels of satisfaction and happiness in their relationships. So when it comes to the avoidant, it really tends to pull away and you kind of just become roommates with this person because they're really withdrawing from physical and emotional intimacy. It can be a very lonely experience.